Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the ReQuest. It's me, Captain Logan, and look, it's also Austin, the Day Ghost.
Howdy, 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 howdy.
Tonight, Austin and I are going to talk about a Western. We're going to talk about what I want to think of as... Oh, and he's gone.
I just remember it.
He's
How
already
could I
been run out of
forgot?
town. He just
If I
got
can
done run
balance
out of town. Well,
I don't think it's gonna work.
that's not going to work.
It's not.
That's a cool Western hat you have there.
Thanks. I got it when I was 12 because I wanted an Indiana Jones hat and I couldn't get one, so I got a cowboy hat.
Does it have a silver ring around it, and did you have to shoot a guy to get it back?
It does not, sadly.
Oh.
And
Oh, wait, it does look nice though. Like when you put it up to the camera.
oh yeah, no, I had to pay extra because the Cuban guy that we bought it from, because it was in Cuba. I don't. That's not me being like, some Cuban guy. Uh, he told my mom it was made of real cow leather, so she paid more for it.
Oh wow, you think she got duped?
Yeah, the leather's made of cow.
Probably so. Why do you keep trying? It's not gonna fit on your head.
Because like if I stand still long enough.
That's gonna be insanely distracting.
There we go.
Oh my god. Okay, he's
I
really gonna try to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so tonight we're gonna talk about what I want to call a old new Western, Austin. This is Silverado. It's from 1985, during a period when, of course, the Western genre had kind of gone out of fashion and was trying to bring back the good old days and get people interested in Westerns again. It is produced and directed, and that's the order of the credits. It's kind of odd, by Lawrence Kasdan, and this is not too long after Raiders of the Lost Ark, so it feels like he's kind of trying to do the same thing with the Western genre that he did with Indiana Jones, in going back to not the John Wayne Western, but kind of more the earlier like serial Western, where it's a little bit more plot driven and there's not a lot of social commentary and that kind of thing. It's just a big fun kind of action spectacle. And it feels, I guess, just kind of right out the gate, Austin, feels to me like it really wants to be like a big blockbuster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my letterboxd review is something like the most Western to have ever Westerned.
Yeah, when I finished watching it, Jason didn't watch this with me, but Jason asked me what I watched for ReQuest, and I told him about this, and I was like, my review is, it's a Western.
Yeah, it's like the most Western I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at something like this now, because it is nostalgia throwback in the same way that so much stuff is right now, during a period where that wasn't, as prevalent and kind of taking over, and it feels like, all we're doing these days is a lot of safe, self-aware throwback movies with a lot of brand recognition, name recognition, if not just kind of genre recognition. And this is kind of, that again. And it's, it's not like nostalgia bait things never existed before. But I'm watching this with a very different lens than I might have 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Well,
I'm kind of hypersensitive to some of that stuff now, and it probably prevented me from enjoying it as much as I might have.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like it helps a bit in that like this is very much that kind of like nostalgia, like let's go back to the Western thing, but it's not like let's just throw everything you remember like at you.
It
Like
did
we
feel
do
that way
now.
to me for the first 20 minutes, though.
No, that's fair.
And I think
Yeah.
I got off on the wrong foot with it a little bit because of that, where I
Mhm.
was like, by the second one, I was already done with. They're gorgeous. It's a good soundtrack. Don't get me wrong, but I was kind of done very quickly with the big, broad, sweeping shots of men riding horses across vast landscapes, going cross country. Where it's like, remember the westerns? Like, yeah, and I expect some of that, but they just go on forever.
See, and I want more of that. So I was like, yay.
I figured you and I would probably be approaching this a little bit differently, so I'm curious to see what your takeaways are from it. This was requested, by the way, by MattBat68 on Patreon. Thanks a lot to him. Kind of a left field choice, I thought. I don't know if this is a movie that he grew up with and loves a lot, or if he saw it later and just thought that it was kind of underrated. It has kind of a cult classic status, and you might expect it to be a little bit more popular than it is. I had never even, well, I want to say I'd never heard of this. I guess I had, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, that was what I had too. And then I went, oh, like it's Lawrence Kasdan. I guess that's maybe why, like part of why it was requested. I don't know. That or you just really liked this movie.
And it probably has something to do with the cast also. Like,
oh, it's going.
I figured you'd lose it at some point. But yeah, I'm curious as to what Matt Batts, and he doesn't seem to be here at the moment. But I'm curious as to what his background is with this. As far as why he might want us to look at it, I'm sure it's likely to have something to do with the fact that it's a very odd Stick from Daredevil prequel. And like, I didn't expect Stick from Netflix's Daredevil to necessarily be that old. Like, yeah, I know he's old. I didn't think he was around all the way back in the 1880s.
Well, you say that, but I looked at his filmography and there was a movie where I was like, oh man, he's that old.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. But there was something like...
And he's showing his age in Daredevil, but in exactly the right way. Like, I just love how world-weary and grizzled that guy looks in that, but also how insanely physically capable he is. It's not... Anyway, this has that actor, and I'd never seen him in a starring role like this, and it took me half the movie to realize that's who that was.
No, that was the same thing with me. I was like... oh, this guy reminds me so much of David Carradine, but he's not David Carradine. Like, who is this?
Yeah.
Like,
he does look a little bit like Carradine. That's true.
I was like, he's someone. Like, I even like outside of the Carradine thing, like I recognize this guy. Like, who is he? And finally, I had to look him up.
That's what, Scott Glenn?
Yes.
Yeah, I never even knew the actor's name.
No, neither did I.
I mean, I don't know. I probably
I was like, oh, they just found like an old guy.
I probably referred to him in old reviews, but I didn't remember his name. But yeah, all-star cast, but of a lot of up-and-comers. People that are really popular now or got real popular in the next few years. This is a very early role for Kevin Costner. This is Jeff Goldblum before he's discovered, so he gets like almost nothing to do in this movie, and it could have been anybody.
No, and with him, I was like, oh, it's so weird hearing Jeff Goldblum talk in the Wild West. Like, he walks out and he's a cowboy, and he's like, hi, I'm Jeff Goldblum. Like, he's doing, like, his Jeff Goldblum thing.
I don't know if I've ever seen anything pre-fly Jeff Goldblum. And clearly, again, he hadn't been discovered yet. So he's not cast in this for doing, what he's great at as Jeff Goldblum. He's just a working actor trying to get roles.
No, it's like Sam Jackson in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, but even, which is funny because of course that's kind of his breakout movie, but or his second breakout movie, I guess, after The Fly. But I just think it's funny that you went to a movie that Goldblum is also in.
Yeah, that is true.
But even less so because that's a bigger supporting role. He gets a little more to do in that.
That is true, but Sam Jackson gets like
he at least gets a speaking role, but you're right. He doesn't get like the mother effers and all the stuff that
he doesn't get to like be Sam Jackson. That's no one's favorite Sam Jackson performance.
No, that's true. It's a lot of people's favorite in laughing at it because it's Sam Jackson getting his arm taken off, and he doesn't even get to be Sam Jackson. It's very funny.
No, it's that and Hold On to Your Butts. Those are like his two moments.
I mean, I say Goldblum doesn't get anything to do. I guess what I really mean is just anybody could play that part. Like, he gets to be a bad guy. He gets to hold a girl at gunpoint and almost kill somebody. Like,
he gets one of those cool, like, hidden gun things. I love those things. That was cool.
Yeah, he's a henchman. But yeah, I mean, it could have just been Jeff Goldblum as the henchman. His character name is Slick.
He was Slick.
This is one of those movies where I have a tough time recalling character names. except for the heavy-set sheriff guy who may or may not be on our hero's side, who turns out to be the villain of the piece, Cobb, because every Western has to have a Cobb. I did think that
The coin of the cob. Yeah.
this movie was pulling a lot of the big names you kind of associate with old Westerns, going all the way back, like one of the main female roles. And I think, by the way, Linda Hunt is probably the great breakout performance in this movie. I thought she was just spectacular. But she plays a character named Stella. Of course you have to have a Stella. Running the saloon.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
No,
I
she's
thought she was
awesome.
the MVP of this film.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that. She was really cool, and cause she was like really short, and she has like the little stand that she goes on while she
Yeah.
tends the bar. It's awesome.
Well, and I like
Has
that
nothing to do with her performance, but that character was great.
No, it was cool, and she had, I don't know, everything about that was memorable. Like,
Mhm.
she had a saloon called the Midnight Star. Yeah, you're not gonna forget that. Maybe for me partly because of the Weird Al song, but
Well, the Midnight Star sounds like it could be the name of a western. If
that's
it isn't,
true. I
maybe
kind of wish
that's a
they'd called
reference to
this that
something.
now. Actually, now that you say that, I think enough of the action takes place in that saloon. They could have gotten away with that title.
Yeah, I also feel like if you're gonna have a western called the Midnight Star, that should be like your main character. He's the sheriff called the Midnight Star,
Oh yeah,
or
that's
a cowboy.
no, that's pretty good. But then it could have been a subversion thing where the title is fine. It's just the name of the town, and it sounds like an old Western serial.
That's a
But
classic western thing to do, is name after the town.
yeah, sure. But and I kept wanting to call it Desperado before we watched it. I was like, oh, there's a movie called it. No, it's Silverado. Okay.
But it's a good thing you watched the right movie.
Yeah, no, exactly. But they could have. Is there a movie called? There probably is a movie called Desperado.
Yeah, I think that's a Robert Rodriguez movie.
Oh, okay. I just know the
Early.
I just know the old song.
Yeah, Despacito.
What?
Anyways,
I
moving
don't know
on.
what's happening here. But I was going to say, you could have maybe, if you called it Midnight Star, you could have subverted it where it's actually the name of the corrupt sheriff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Because he owns the place. You could have had the exact same movie, actually, and called it that, and it would have been almost a double entendre thing. But regardless, I mean, the title's fine, whatever. Let's go ahead and get a quick synopsis from Austin. This is a pretty involved plot. Don't feel the need to get real in the weeds with it. I don't know how much of it I'm going to be able to recall, honestly. It lost me at some plays because there's just so much going on with different subplots with different characters. Like, if I had to describe what it was like watching this film, I'd say, well, there's a confrontation, and then there's a confrontation, and then there's a confrontation. But anyway, if you'd give us just a real quick synopsis, what's this movie about, and then we'll figure out how you felt about it.
Well, there's an introduction, an introduction, an introduction, and an introduction, followed with a confrontation, confrontation.
He did that on purpose because there's four main characters. I mean, it's a 4-man team.
Mm-hmm. No, it's very much
Ultimately-
like a building the team, but like in a Western scenario where you're kind of going on your adventure and picking up people as you go along, and then we kind of all get involved with the like crime thing.
Yeah, like the obvious comparison with Magnificent Seven, but that's not really the same thing because it's not someone that's going around recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
But this is
Yeah.
a formula that shows up in a lot of westerns. I'm just not a big western guy, so I'm not thinking of.
Yeah, it's like your classic like Wizard of Oz. Like you pick up your companions as you go.
Yeah, I guess the big difference between this and maybe some other things is at some point in about the halfway point they all disband and then they come back together again,
Mm-hmm.
like with in an unlikely, say it with me everybody, confrontation.
And that's the first confrontation.
Right. There is a lot of like really convenient meetups in this, right? Where it's like we keep going to all these different towns and we keep finding people we've met before,
Mm-hmm.
or that characters know already. It's like that's a really small old west.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And that's a trope of westerns, but this takes it to the nines. Like, I don't want to say that it degenerates into self-parody, because it doesn't, but it is that thing where it's a little bit exaggerated. It's a little heightened. And
Mhm.
you could say that's either in going back to the serial thing, or it's because it's being real nostalgia bait about it. I could see either argument with that.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So you start off with Stick, and he gets attacked by some criminals. He finds another
His name
cowboy,
in this is Emmett.
Emmett. That's right. That's actually one of the names I did remember. It's Emmett. I actually knew Slick. That's one of the ones I remembered. I remembered Cobb.
Well, what helps with Emmett is that when I think of 80s westerns, the first thing that comes to my mind, of course, is Back to the Future 3, and that's Emmett Brown. And by the way, this
Oh
opened
yeah.
the same weekend as Back to the Future,
Oh,
which
I
might
didn't
be
look to
why
see how
no
much
one
this made. Yeah,
remembers it.
that's exactly what I was gonna say.
But I was reminded of Back to the Future 3 in a number of places with this, just in production values and stuff.
Spielberg was like, "Thanks for writing my last movie, and I'm gonna destroy your next movie."
You know the other real quick. I'm sorry. I'll let you do your synopsis. I always do this to you. The other early '80s, early mid '80s movie, just the previous year that I was reminded of slightly. I don't want to pretend like these are more connected than they are at all. But at one point, I flashed real hard to Ghostbusters because you have an unlikely team of four guys who all get together to accomplish something, and you have to have the token black guy.
Mhm.
Like when they're all riding horses together, when we and of course the last one they pick up is indeed not John Glover, Danny Glover, and who's awesome in this, and Danny Glover's awesome in everything. But as soon as they all got on horses together and started riding out into the wilderness, I was like, oh, it's Ghostbusters.
Well, and just like Ghostbusters, Busta makes you feel good, when you're in the Old West. So, anyways,
Exactly. See, they have a lot in common, those movies.
mhm. Remember there's that part where they're like sucking the guts boys with the cowboys?
What?
That's Ghostbusters too. Anyways, um,
I didn't immediately get that reference. I'm
oh,
sorry.
I forgot you don't love Ghostbusters too like
I
I
don't.
do.
No, I don't. I don't love it. I don't hate it. But the what? I just didn't even hear what you said. I don't think the what now.
Um, sucking the guts boys were the cowboys because they're cowboys in this instead of Ghostbusters. Anyways,
Anyway, okay, go ahead. I still don't think I'm 100% understanding what you're saying, but that's all right.
it's the anyways. You have Emmett. He gets attacked by some
We
robbers.
are terrific
Yeah,
podcasters. Go
we're,
ahead.
we're on a great roll tonight. He he meets another cowboy who's robbed by some criminals, and so they join up and they go into the town where they find the guys that um, stole his horse and all of his things, and he kills them, and eventually he gets put into jail where Kevin Costner is, and Kevin Costner is the brother of Emmett, and so then they team up, and then Emmett also meets Danny Glover in a bar, and they say some things that I did not know you could say in PG-13.
Back
And
then, anyway, yeah, it was a
mhm,
different time.
exactly.
There is briefly, yeah, a kind of racist component, which doesn't permeate the movie like I thought it might.
I had the same thing. I thought it was going to be much more of it.
It's the most contemporary thing in the movie, I think. Where
hmm
they stopped to deal with that for a minute. And I mean, if you had, I don't mean to say it's revisionist history or anything. It just feels like that in that period, the mid '80s, somebody felt the need to make a statement about that.
hmm
And it's not horribly heavy-handed or anything, but I was kind of surprised that it didn't really show up again. I mean, maybe he has Danny Glover's character has issues with other people through the movie, and some of it might be because they're racist. But if you didn't have that scene, I wouldn't be sure I could read into that anywhere. And there's not one other place where he's not allowed in because he's black.
hmm Yeah, no, exactly.
But I don't remember seeing any like 50s or like 50s to 60s westerns with any like major black characters. But again, I haven't seen a lot of westerns, so I
hmm
don't know if that happens very often.
But it was probably early enough that it was considered taboo to do that.
Yeah, sure.
But anyways, so they go off on their adventure to Silverado, the town, and they get there and they meet up with Emmett's sister and her husband and son. And oh, and there's also Cobb, who like is this like criminal guy who offers what's the first guy that gets picked up? Paladin or something?
Yeah, I kept wanting
Something
to
like
call
that.
him that too. No, it's Payton.
Payton,
That
thank
was not as memorable of a name.
he offers Payton a job, but he ends up being the main bad guy, and criminal shenanigans ensue. And
Payton is Kevin Kline if you've not seen the movie.
yes,
We've got both famous '80s Kevins. We've got Kevin Kline and Kevin Costner.
exactly. And Kevin Kline's character Payton, he's friends with a bartender that he works for, and who's awesome that we both love. And yeah, criminal westerny things ensue, and everybody gets shot.
Yeah, everybody gets shot, and almost everybody gets thrown in jail at some point.
Mhm. No, exactly.
And you got to have your typical like jailbreak scene in the first 20 minutes, and somebody, this Kevin Costner's character, somebody's gonna hang at dawn, but oh no, it's not dawn, it's 10 a.m. I kind of like that.
Mhm. Yeah, and the sheriff in that town is John Cleese, and I was so sad when he left. I was like, oh no, keep showing John Cleese. I don't know why he's in this, but he's awesome.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by how much of the film took place in the in the titular town of Silverado.
Hmm.
Because at first I got worried that we were just going to keep like jumping towns and jumping towns. Like it started to feel like you had like a season of television's worth of plot. And I don't think it gets to quite that level, but I do think that there's maybe a few too many characters we're focusing on with their own like separate ordeals and reasons for shooting people or getting shot and stuff.
You think it needs a Winston, like a character, like at least one character of the four that doesn't get as much development?
I don't know. I think because I think you actually have that in Kevin Costner's character, because after we break him out, he doesn't
That's
really get
true.
all that much to do the rest of the movie. It kind of feels like a triple protagonist movie, sort of. It's really more double. Like it's kind of Kevin Kline and Scott Glenn's movie. There's a sentence I never thought I'd say. And then it's and then you occasionally get backstory and tragedy and conflict for Danny Glover to deal with, but he doesn't feel like he's at the same level of protagonist as them. He doesn't really like the character that gets the biggest arc is, I guess, Payton. Because he's got to learn to, act even when people he cares about might be in danger for the sake of the greater good. That like if I if I'm put in the situation of the sadistic choice, like he has to learn kind of the classic hero's journey sort of thing, right? Where if he's put in the sadistic choice place, it's not his fault if somebody gets hurt. That's the choice of the villain, and he still has to do the right thing. And like ultimately, all four of them are kind of stalwart heroes that only kill in self-defense, arguably.
That's a different time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and like it's lawless, and it's your word against his, and even when they're they make a big point of this, like even when there is the law in a town, it tends to be like one guy who's kind of a bully, and do you really trust him to have your best interests at heart and all of that? But like that's kind of the big character arc. And then it focuses real hard on Emmett, but he doesn't really change too much through the course of the movie, and I actually sort of have a bone to pick with it with that. By the end of it, I didn't love that he didn't end up staying with the girl that he fell for.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't really have an issue with that. It felt just very much like playing with the tropes of the Western. But
Yeah, I couldn't decide if I understood his character well enough, or just on one viewing, or if he was drawn. And we spent so much time with him. I felt kind of weird getting to the end and going, I don't know if I totally buy why you didn't stay with the girl.
I just got to live the free life. Not anchored down by a woman.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's what it was supposed to be, but I wasn't totally sure if that's the choice that guy would have made. But I don't know. Maybe I'd appreciate it more in a second viewing because, like I said, we were jumping around a lot with
Mhm.
with different subplots and things. Real quick,
Actually,
I'll
you can
just
either be an Emmett or an Emmett Brown. You either stay for the woman or don't.
yeah, exactly. I I mean, at least he didn't have to save her from Clayton Shonash Ravine.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I'm going to assume that you had probably a better time with this movie than I did.
It seems like it. I don't know. I didn't love this movie or anything. I thought it was pretty
Okay.
good.
I
Uh,
thought it was just fine.
hmm.
And that's the exact same review that Gene Siskel gave it when he and Ebert reviewed this. And I almost always side with Ebert over Siskel, and I was totally with Siskel on this one.
Oh,
Where
okay.
Ebert was like in love with it and seemed to really get drawn in by all the nostalgia stuff it was doing, and thought that it was credible and thought that he did the same thing for this that he did for the kind of action serials that Raiders of the Lost Ark was doing. And maybe I'm not a big enough Western. But I mean, I'm definitely not a Western fan. Like maybe I just don't care enough about that genre to be won over just by the trappings of it. Like I didn't think it was a great story,
Hmm.
and I thought it was half an hour too long.
I did think it was too long. There were parts where I thought it dragged. Um, no, my main thing is, and I'm learning more and more in like the last year that I do really like westerns, and I'm starting to get more into that genre. Um, but my main thing is I've just seen better westerns. Like,
Well, same here. Yeah,
mhm.
and I haven't
I,
even seen that
I
many,
like
but
this one enough.
it just made me want to go back to all the classic John Wayne stuff I never bothered with.
Hmm. Yeah, which is a lot of the stuff that I've seen. But like, it reminded me a lot of Tombstone, which I think is like a decade later. But like, I
Yeah,
think that's a better version of this.
there's a couple of classic '90s westerns that I've still never bothered with.
Hmm. And yeah, and I just watched Bone Tomahawk a few weeks ago, and that was great.
I don't even know what that
That's
is.
very different. That's like a horror western. That was Kurt Russell. Came out in 2015.
Did you want this to have any more of it, like an edge to it, or be a little bit more character driven, or anything like that? Or because I didn't mind how, boy, I don't want to say fluff or anything, but like I honestly didn't mind how like adventure driven and like feel good and family affair this was. I just thought the story was too complicated for that and too soap opera. Like I wanted it to be simplified down.
Hmm. Yeah, I didn't really have an issue with that, and I came in because all I
Did
knew
you
was
not? Because boy, it lost me about 2/3 of the way through. I was kind of done with it
hmm.
at that point. I just didn't really care about anything that was happening. Like I really enjoyed performances, and I thought the production values were fantastic. And he's got a like I said, it's got a really good score that drives it. Uh, Maybe that theme plays three too many times with the big sweeping landscape shots,
Hmm.
I but yeah, I just I was kind of done with the plot.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't really have that. I liked that there was like as much for each character to do, and they kind of each had like some sort of villain to have a confrontation with by the end. Like there was like at least some sort of rivalry type thing that each one got to deal with. Um, I was surprised that we did that, but yeah, no, I didn't really have an issue with the plotting. But like I said, I do agree that I think it is too long, and it does drag in places.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a cut you could make of this with some fewer scenes. Like I wonder if there's some stuff that if there's some fat you could kind of trim out of it.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
But I
Um,
know there's a lot of individual pieces I was really impressed with.
yeah, No, and I went into this because all I knew was Kevin Costner was in it, and I was like, oh no, it's gonna be like Dances with Wolves. I
Oh
hate
yeah, I forgot
wolves.
he's in that. I've never seen Dances with Wolves.
And it's not like that at all. It's like an actual Western movie, and I like that. So I think part of it was that I came in a little trepidatious, and I went, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I came in just knowing it was a western.
Hmm.
I didn't
Yeah,
have
absolutely.
any
And
expectations really in any direction. But I don't know. It did have. I mean, it's not egregious as something like Bumblebee or something, but it did have a little bit of that. Like, look, everybody, it's a western.
yeah, I don't. I
At
guess
the
I'd have to rewatch it
toward
to
the
see.
toward the beginning, especially, I felt like it was, and in a little bit of a different way. It's such a celebration of the genre, and like I said, I think I'm starting to get really hypersensitive to that.
Hmm.
And I don't mean to bring baggage of now back to something that was made 40 years ago, but it's hard not to be affected by it a little bit when you've been having like a knee-jerk reaction to it, where you're like, okay, just like move on and tell a story, and you know what I mean. And with this, it was oh my god, don't you miss the western? Like it felt like a revival for something that didn't exist before.
Hmm. That's funny. So I guess that you're getting like all the sweeping shots, like, oh my God, it's a Western. And your reaction is like, oh, I get it. Like
Yeah,
nostalgia for the Western. And I'm like, oh my God, remember we used to make movies?
yeah, sure. Yeah, well, no, and I understand that too. Yeah,
Uh,
well, like
that's fair.
you're letting your feelings about current film affect you in a positive way.
Hmm. Yeah, and you're letting it affect you in a bad way.
Yeah, well, I would have been a lot more won over by all of that if I was more engaged with what was happening. I think.
Hmm. Yeah. But I definitely like those kinds of like sweeping shots. But, I'm
There
a
was
Lord
just
of
too
the
much of
Rings
it in the first
guy.
half hour.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And also, this is going to be a really weird point, I guess, but like it felt like one of those you had to be there and you had to be the right age for it at the time and you had to see it in a movie theater. It really felt like that. Like I bet in 1985 this is a lot of fun in a movie theater.
Sure,
I
yeah.
felt a little funky watching it alone in a basement in 2023. Like it just felt it's harsh and unfair to say outdated, but like it
Hmm.
felt like it was meant to be seen in that time and place.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
And if it had
Absolutely.
a great story, I wouldn't feel that much about it, that way as much about it.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's
But
fair.
like, it's got a real specific purpose,
Hmm.
at that time. And again, the difference between it and something like Raiders of Star Wars, which was doing the same thing, don't you miss this kind of action schlock? Don't you miss this kind of sci-fi science fantasy schlock? Is those are both simpler and more engaging stories with a lot more focus on a singular character.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess this is just missing, in terms of like the Star Wars and Indiana Jones thing. It's missing that George Lucas to kind of bring it into the modern day
That's
and
exactly what
reinvent it.
that's exactly what Goofster123 just said in the
Oh,
comments. He says unlike because I was going to read this right after you said that, and then you blew my mind when you said the same thing. Just real condensed down. He says unlike Raiders and adventure films, the Star Wars with sci-fi Silverado doesn't attempt to bring the Western into what was then the modern age, and instead flounders in old conventions and tropes. I totally agree with that.
hmm. Yeah, and I guess I just liked it because, and it helps that I'm only just getting into westerns. Like I haven't seen a ton, but like I'm just getting into that kind of thing.
Neither have I, but I think
So
I've
it's like,
mostly only seen great ones. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like it's a genre that I've barely touched, but like the six I've seen, minus one, minus maybe one or two, are some of the like big tentpole everybody like High Noon and Mag Seven and True Grit and that kind of stuff. At least the remake of True Grit. I've never seen the original, but it's the remake is wonderful. Um, the one of the only John Wayne films I've seen is a movie called McClintock with an exclamation point. I don't know why it has an exclamation point, but it has it. McClintock, and it's pronounced like four different ways in the movie. It's McClintock, it's McClintock. Uh,
McClintock sounds like a 1950s Marvel monster book where it's like, behold the doom of Tim Clark.
McClintock.
And it's like a giant clock monster. That's
Oh my
awesome.
god, I want to see that. And it was John Wayne playing it, so now I just have this crazy mental image. Uh, that is not a great western.
Hmm.
That is a movie that is super confused tonally, where it's got these extremely serious, like tragic, dour moments inside of what is otherwise a slapstick comedy with people like rolling down muddy hills.
Weird.
It's
Okay.
very strange. Yeah, that juxtaposed with like a man slapping his wife in the face, and I'm like, I don't understand this movie. I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking at.
I mean, spousal abuse is slapstick when you think about it.
Austin, how many times have I told you you got to remember where you are? Okay, it's a family-friendly channel,
Cap,
sir.
okay, Cap, tell
Yeah,
me
yeah,
you've
yeah.
never walked up to Sarah and been like, pick two.
Oh my god. No, no, Austin, Austin, where are you right now?
I'm here, I'm sorry. We're
We're gonna
back, we're
we're gonna
back.
start hemorrhaging subscribers again because of you. I said again for dramatic effect. Uh, Jajira, I'm more into spaghetti westerns where the main character is more morally gray. Yeah, sure, and I mean, like a lot of people prefer that. Absolutely, this is much more of the like stalwart, always does the right thing kind of hero piece. Although I like that there's a moral quandary.
Hmm.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
there's
last very
that.
long. He figures it out relatively quickly, but I mean there is a moral quandary.
Mhm. No, and I think because like I was saying with like the update thing, I think what I liked about it was that it was those Western tropes, but made with modern, to that time, filmmaking.
Yeah, and it's a
I
great looking
appreciated that.
movie.
Yeah.
Apparently, so they shot that in New Mexico, and apparently it was a big deal that it was shot in America because very few westerns back in the day were.
Mhm.
You'd usually shoot in Mexico or Spain because it was cheaper. And so those big sweeping landscapes we keep talking about are like actually more or less where they're supposed to be, and are here domestically, which I guess was kind of exciting and a big deal. But like they went and filmed on a ranch, and they got permission from some guy to use his ranch, and it was supposed to be a lot smaller than it was, and then it just kept building and getting bigger and bigger, and they ended up making this much more epic piece than it was supposed to be in the first place.
Interesting.
So I think they built that whole town like out on some guy's land.
Weird. I
I
assumed that was
think.
just like one of those backlots. Because like there is a few of those. I think Paramount has like a Western backlot.
Yeah, but I didn't recognize anything on it, and it looked custom built for the movie for me, and I'm pretty sure I read that it is.
Oh, okay. Well, there was one point where I could see the seam between the ground and the matte painting of the background, and I was
Oh, that's
like,
great.
yeah, no, I was like, that's awesome. I miss those days. Not really, because I wasn't born, but
you you miss imagining what those days were like watching movies about them.
exactly the good old days, as they say.
But yeah, I'm somewhere middle of the road on this. I mean, I would flip my sign green
Hmm.
if I had a sign.
Yeah.
I mean, I have
So
a
you're like,
sign. I guess I can. I guess I can flip it. We don't usually do that here. Here is the sign, and if I had this theoretical sign I'm holding, I would flip it green.
so you're a lukewarm green, but like probably not enough to get it on the Hall of Fame.
No, it's not. It's definitely not a Hall of Fame movie for me. Would it be for you? I would assume not quite the way you've been talking about it. Or does it maybe get close? I know you can't really tell until you put it in your ranking.
It's also hard to tell for me sometimes where it's like oh, I liked that movie. Like would I buy it? I don't know. Like I liked it. Like I'd probably watch this again. So like I don't know.
Yeah, the Hall of
You know
Fame
what I mean?
thing
Like
is real subjective, where it's like, where do we want to even draw the line with that? I usually bring that whole idea up when something just knocked my socks off.
mhm.
When I'm like, not only would I don't think it's enough to say you would rewatch it, like one more time just to get the gist of it again, or maybe I'd be in the mood for that, but like I want to turn back around and watch it tomorrow. I want to start showing this to people.
Mhm. Yeah, like Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. But did it at least shoot your
I
hat
mean, like
off?
my family and I have watched Hamilton now like 5 times. Like that is a tippy top Hall of Fame movie. Like we can't stop looking at that. But like I've got that with a couple of other things we've done on this show.
Mhm.
Nothing else I've watched that many times, but that like I have shown people.
That's about as many times as I've seen Beyond the Valley of the Dolls since we did it. So that is our equivalent.
That's hilarious. Well, and to be fair, I mean Hamilton's like two and a half hours, 2 hours 45 minutes. Like
But they're both musical movies, so.
that's true. But I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say, did it at least shoot your hat off, even if it didn't blow your socks off?
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't wearing a hat. I had the same thing that Kevin Kline did at the beginning of the movie, where he's in his underwear and he doesn't have a hat, but he thinks he's wearing a hat, and like he reaches up and he tries to tip it, but he's not wearing a hat. Like I had that.
Oh, okay.
Except I wasn't in my underwear, but I didn't have a hat.
Okay.
That you know of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was like John Cleese, shot my hat off, and I was like, okay, time to leave.
I thought, like I said, the lady that owns the saloon, Stella, that is the breakout character for me. I thought she was fantastic. And she seemed really layered and kind of a tad mysterious. But like, really, you really sympathized with her.
Mm-hmm.
She
No,
was
I
really
thought she was
endearing,
great.
I guess is what I'm trying to say. But then the other character that I think I was probably most impressed with was actually Cobb, because I didn't know which way we were going with him for a lot of the movie. Like, he's a criminal, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be like the big bad of the movie. I like the foreshadowing early on when he hires Kevin Kline on, and he's like. And I also just like how much Kevin Kline falls in love with this town and falls in love with that saloon, and then at the end that's paid off really nicely by his becoming the sheriff of the town. That all of that's great. But I also like the foreshadowing early on when he gets hired on, and Kevin Kline kills the guy that he replaces. And that's when you start going, okay, this is maybe an intimidating character. Like, we can't really trust this guy. He's literally shooting from the hip, right? Like, he's a loose cannon. What's gonna happen with him? And then he goes, well, I don't see anything like that ever happening with us. And then of course they have a shootout at the end. So yeah, that foreshadowing was nice. But yeah, there was a lot of great tension that came from scenes with that character, I thought.
Yeah, for sure. I also wanted to mention Kevin Costner, because I like him in a few things. Like, I like Field of Dreams, but most of the time,
That's my big go-to with him, of course, because Field of
but
Dreams is one of my favorite movies. But I don't know if I'm a huge fan of him in anything other than that
that's what I was
movie.
about to say. Is normally I don't really like Kevin Costner, and I thought he was great in this because he wasn't just playing boring Kevin Costner.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and again, it's almost the opposite thing that you have with Jeff Goldblum, where he gets to do something fun because it's before we found him,
Mhm.
and he got typecast. Like, Goldblum gets typecast in exactly the right way.
Yeah. No, it reminded me of like Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder, where I'm like, oh, this guy's got like good character actor chops. Can we
Why do we
let them
never let
use it?
him do this?
Yeah. It's like, can we do that, please?
Did you not find the conclusion a little bit anticlimactic?
Which part? Which confrontation? Confrontation.
Yeah, well, the main resolution. I thought the shootout was a little anticlimactic. Like they do the very obvious tumbleweed moment. Like, we're gonna have a shootout. We walk out.
Oh, with Cobb, yeah.
With Cobb, there's tumbleweeds, right? And then Kevin Kline. I mean, like, all four of these guys, all movie, have been proven to be perfect shots. Every single one, they're brilliant. Like, especially Danny Glover, who seems to be the best shot of all of them, but they're all really good at it, right?
Yeah, they're all perfect, yeah.
And I just think they make a bigger deal out of Danny Glover
Mhm.
because of like the way he saves people, and he'll get these like really perfect. Maybe they all do that. I was gonna say he'll get these perfect shots,
Well, he
like
gets that
through
shot
somebody's
off
hand
on
or
John Cleese's hat, yeah.
yeah, that too. But anyway, so like the moment they walk out, I'm like, well, this guy doesn't have a prayer.
Yeah, but maybe Cobb uses smaller bullets, Cap.
And then and again, this might be unfair. This might be because I've seen too many movies after this. Like, you obviously can't compare a thing to everything that happens later. But there's not any new spin on it for a thing that's like, nostalgia, throwback, like testament to the genre of the Western, or celebration of the Western. We're not flipping the script at all. We're not adding any kind of cool twist to the shootout. It's just a really simple, draw, bang, you're dead.
Yeah,
and then everybody goes their separate ways at the end, and that's it. Like, for a movie that was really taking its time, and I think a little too much. Like, it's kind of weird that I'm complaining that it's too long, because it's a lot of action and it's a lot of people like shooting each other and stuff. There also is kind of downtime, but every time you think you're watching a scene with downtime, it turns into a really tense scene that ultimately ends up with somebody shooting somebody. So it kind of feels like there's not enough downtime in a really weird way. I don't totally know how to articulate that. And then you get to the end, and I don't even know if rushed is the right word, but it's just bang, you're dead, and then we go our separate ways and the movie's over.
Yeah, in a weird way, the shootout in a Western is the sports movie microcosmed into one scene, and that there's only two places you can go.
Yeah.
So, what do you do with it? That is the one thing where it's like, this is...
That's why I was so impressed with the
typical
John Wick
thing.
4, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they found a way to really subvert it and go someplace new with it.
When Kevin Costner gets the best confrontation in the 4 confrontations, with his awesome,
I think there's like 12 and each of them get 3, but sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where he gets that awesome moment where he jumps out of the bar and he's like, hey, and he shoots both of them at once. That was great.
Yeah, no, that was cool. And there's some really nice stunts in this movie, in places where you can't tell if the actors are doing it themselves or not.
There was like
really professional stunt work.
Like, I was like really impressed with it, and then I stopped and went like, I don't know, is it maybe like silly for me to be really impressed by this? But it was where Kevin Costner like gets off his horse, he's like riding, and as he's stopping, he like flips his legs off and jumps down. And I was like,
no, I had that too.
I was like, oh man, that's so cool.
That was actually the moment I was thinking of when I said that, because it's him doing it.
Yeah. I was like, that's awesome. If Pa Kent did that instead of talking about hero cakes, he would be the best Pa Kent, is all I'm saying.
That's exactly right. So yeah, it's a fine movie. If you love Westerns, you'll probably like it more than I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. No, I thought it was pretty good. But not great.
Anything else you want to bring up about it?
No, because my like big thing I was holding on to was Kevin Costner, and we got there. So
I just wanted to say hero cake.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so next time on the ReQuest, we're going to watch. Apparently, and hopefully this works out. I more or less let the requesters ask for what they want to. So when it doesn't work out, it's not my fault, okay? Somebody asked me if we would be willing to watch part of a show later well into a show, and I don't usually do that. Usually we do like pilots of things. But this person said the show he's talking about, the seasons are broken up such where you can watch one without the others. Hopefully we can trust this. Keep in mind, we're the ones that did the very last thing in Evangelion.
Yeah.
So I've allowed this kind of thing before, and if it doesn't work out, it's not my fault. But anyway, I say he. Who is
nervous.
this? This is Summer.
It's definitely a he. There's no women in the Geekvolution audience.
Summer Sedek. Well, I know, but I'm just saying I didn't say his name. Summer.
I'm sorry to the one woman that watches.
Summer Sedek asked for a cartoon show called Infinity Train and wants us to watch the 3rd season. I don't know what this is.
That sounds
I
familiar.
think it airs on Netflix, maybe. I think it's a Cartoon Network thing, but I think it comes out on another streaming service. Or maybe, no, it's probably Max. I think it's Max. So I'm not sure how you'll watch it. We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah. I think I've heard of this. Infinity Train.
But anyway, apparently the seasons are short, and it's like movie length, so he asked us to watch the whole season, and I told him we'd do it.
Oh, okay. Oh no,
Uh,
I don't know what this is.
Hopefully that works out okay. But this is a season that came out just 3 years ago. This is 2020, so this is quite recent.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So hopefully that works out. I forgot what it was when I looked at my notes, and the seasons are called books. So at first I thought it was some Marvel thing. I was like, Infinity Train Book 3. What the heck is that? And why are we
Oh
reading Book
no,
3?
Joe Jarrett says it's one of the things that got taken off HBO Max as a tax write-off by Zaslav. That's right. That's where I heard about it. That's why it sounded familiar. That was one of the shows I
Oh,
heard
it
about
got
when you
taken off a
mentioned it.
bunch of services today? Says Goofster123. Because last time I looked at this, it was still available. Okay, we may have
Oh
to
boy.
ask him to pick a different. I tell you what. I Okay, do I want to announce a different request? Or do we want to just talk to him and let him pick something else? Let's table this for now, and next week could end up being something else. And if it is, obviously, I'll let you guys know ahead of time so that you can try to look at it before we talk about it. But I will get in touch with this requester, and if we can't figure out a way to watch it, we'll figure something out. Yeah, that's crazy. I did not know that. I'm glad we see. This is why we do these live.
See, it's every single time, Cap, we do something and then something crazy happens around it. Right then.
Every time, yeah.
Hmm.
Like, are you half expecting the movie we just reviewed to get like a sequel or remake or something?
No, it'll come out next week.
Yeah. What was
We
the
just don't
news that
know.
you told me about surrounding something else we were doing?
Oh,
Oh, something to do with Silence of the Lambs, right?
yeah, because we're doing that on Friday, and The Simpsons. That's one of their parodies this year for Treehouse of Horror, which is crazy they've never done it. But like,
Yeah,
what
that
are
is
the
crazy.
odds?
And like, what the hell are the odds of that?
Hmm.
Like, okay, it's a super important, popular, quote unquote horror film, and people watch it around Halloween. But like, there's lots of those.
And they haven't really been doing that in Treehouse of Horror. Like, there's not been a lot of like the each year goes back to something that they never did. So,
No, that's true too. That makes the odds. I mean, I'm not great at probability, but I would think that would make the odds even less likely
mhm,
that that would happen.
exactly.
Jajira says book 1 and 2 are on Amazon, but not 3. Okay, so I'm going to have to ask him if he wants us to go back to an earlier season or if he wants us to pick something different entirely. Hopefully, I can get in touch with him.
Yeah, for sure.
But if not, we'll pick something else on the list and we'll table his. And anyway, Noah says, I just watched Silence of the Lambs, fantastic film. Yeah, we are doing, quick plug, the commentary for that on Friday. That will be, I was going to say our last big Halloween thing, although I'm moving some things around, and next week we're going to do another sort of, you know,
One because I know Noah.
horror
Noah's gonna
thing.
be super excited with what we're doing next week.
And because of that, I had to move some things around because my schedule changed, and I'm too busy next week to do the rewind commentaries. So we're gonna have to put those off a week. So we're actually gonna be in pseudo horror territory for the next 3 weeks.
Hmm. Yeah, ended up working out like that. That's cool.
So yeah, that's not bad. It'll be post Halloween, but that's okay
Hmm.
because we got Spawn in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, folks, thanks a lot for hanging out with us tonight or watching this after the fact. Sure appreciate it. If you'd like to make a request yourself, go to patreon.com/geekvolution, and the $15 tier makes that possible. You can request a movie or a comic miniseries or arc or graphic novel or the pilot for a TV show. And in the meantime, we will see
Or
you
a full
again.
season of a show that doesn't exist.
Yeah, but we don't want to advertise that so much. And you can just pledge for 1 month, and as long as your pledge rolls over, you'll get your request on the list, and we get to them within 4 or 5 months. We've got a pretty healthy group of guys that are still, and most of them are guys, as Austin said, that are still. Requesting things, and we've got a big, I don't know, our list right now is probably like 16, 18 strong, I think. So
Hmm.
about 4.5 months. And that's
A lot.
and that's if we take no breaks whatsoever, and we got holidays coming up and stuff, so there'll be a week or two here and there And then I don't know what my life is going to look like after our next kid is born. So I'll have to take a little bit of time off right after that, probably too. But anyway, we'll get to them. Thanks a lot for hanging out with us, folks. We'll see you again real soon. And actually, if you are watching live right now, stick around with us if you're so inclined, because I'm just going to keep pointing, because we're going to do another stream tonight. It is the fourth part. And don't feel bad if you haven't had a chance to watch the other three. You'll catch up. If you're here, you probably know something about superhero movies. We're gonna do the fourth part of our impromptu history of superhero movies, and we're gonna be talking about primarily, I think, the late 2000s. This time, I think that's right. That's right into where we left last time.
That's about where we left off. Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about X-Men enough, but we might backtrack.
Or Spider-Man, yeah.
We might backtrack a little bit. Anyway, thanks again, folks. We'll see you soon. I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin the Day Ghost.
Wait.
And I'll tip the hat I don't have, but I'm not in my underwear. Bye, everybody.